Welcome to the Beyond Thundera podcast. I am Sean Buddha McKeone, author of Hall of Omens and Hall of Omens Thunderverse, and I am alongside ThunderCats and SilverHawks, writer, script consultant, and all-around showrunner Peter Lawrence. And today, we have a very special guest with us. Today, we have one of the audio engineers and sound engineers for ThunderCats, SilverHawks of the comic strip, Larry Franke. Larry, thank you for joining us. And you were one of the audio engineers in the recording staff, right?
I need to interrupt.
Oh.
Larry, I don't know what Larry's title was. I mean, any more than I knew what my title was. Larry, for me, and listening to all the other people, Larry is like the Rock. You know, I don't mean the rock star. I mean, the guy, he was the Rock of the recording studio. And everybody who says anything about Larry says good things. No, so he really was, he's not just, well, I mean, there's no such thing as just, one of the recording crew. He was the man. So he's going to say, no, I wasn't. Nah. That's what everybody else says. So,
well, if that's true, and it probably is to some extent, it's because I came along from the Rankin Bass family, and I worked at A&R Recording, which was I was introduced to Rankin Bass, Jules and Lee Dannacher, Jules Bass and Lee Dannacher there during my early years at A&R Recording. I started at A&R in 1978. I was 20, so I was about 26 when I started on ThunderCats. And I was working with Phil Ramone. My mentors in rock and roll were Phil Ramone, Elliot Shiner with Steely Dan. I got to work with a lot of my rock and roll heroes, John Lennon, Billy Joel, Christine McVie, Fleetwood Mac. A lot of people came through that studio. And I had just gotten done with, I guess, like what was a 6-year run with Phil, which in dog years, like Phil years, that's probably like 60 years. Phil would be working on 3 projects at a time. Remember one time we were doing a Billy record. We were doing an album by Get Wet, which was a band, a great pop band of the time, and a Paul Simon demo. And we were doing them all simultaneously. Of course, it wasn't only me. There was other engineers and people around in Phil's orbit. But I wanted that. That's what I wanted. I knew that it was going to teach me a lot and be very special to be working with Phil. And it was fantastic. And also around the studio at that time was another mentor of mine, John Curcio. And John is how I met the Rankin Bass crew. I remember working on one of the projects I remember was The Last Unicorn, was a beautiful film with Mia Farrow and Jeff Bridges and other people. Alan Arkin, I think, was on that. And Jimmy Webb did music for that. And all these people that I was just still a kid, didn't even know who some of these people were. I mean, the voice actors I knew, but it was exciting. And at one point, I got burned out working with Phil. Around 1980, 84, I was a little bit burned out from that. And, things happen for a reason. John told me about Rankin Bass with this idea that they had, which was ThunderCats. And he said, it's going to involve moving out of A&R Recording, which is where Jules and Lee and John did all the work. And it's going to be over at Howard Schwartz Recording in the Gray Bar building. I'm not so sure that I want to do that. John told me, would you like to do it? And at first I was like, are you kidding? Do you know who you're talking to here? I thought who I was, working with all these rock and roll stars, and dialogue recording. I know what it is, but to me, at that point, it was like a step down. Just recording dialogue would be a step down for me. Cooler heads prevailed. I sent Peter a picture of my favorite ThunderCat, who is my wife, who's always given me the best advice. And she said, well, salary is going to be better. Could be good. I think you should give it a try. And I did. So I went over to Howie's. He built us a room to do the show assemblies. And we started to record show number 1 with ThunderCats and the crew. I forget what the floors were in the gray bar, but I think that our studios were on 19 and the studios were on 16. I forget the floors. But we started recording the dialogue of show number 1. And while that was happening, Bernie Hoffer was getting busy at A&R Recording with the music. I did not record the music. The music was recorded, I believe, if my memory serves, by John Curcio did some of it. Tom Gretto, which was one of my colleagues at A&R, I believe. I may be wrong about some of this. And I think a guy named Michael Farrell did some of the recording. I don't remember everything along that. So the music was being done with Bernie, and at the same time we were starting to record the dialogue for the show number 1. Was that the origin story? I don't know what's the show number 1 called.
I can't remember.
Yeah. and that was how it started. It started in 1984, and that was my. So I think that my, being the focal point audio guy, there were other engineers. There was a guy named Tom Perkins that was involved in the very beginning. We were competitive. We would put itching powder in Tom's hat. He used to wear a cowboy hat. And we didn't like that. I thought he was pretty pretentious. So we'd sneak in there, me, Tony, and Matthew, and put itching powder around the rim, and wondered when he'd start going, "Hey, what's going on here?" That Tom Perkins did some of it. Michael Unger, of course, was brought on. We were very mischievous. There was a lot of stuff that went on. Maybe you'll jar my memory. Maybe I'll remember on my own. But it was fun. It was. Yeah. It wasn't shortly after I went over to Howie's that I knew this was the right thing to do, and it was awesome. And the way I saw it, Jules took Lee under his wing when they were working on the feature lengths at A&R Studio A2, 799 7th Avenue. That's where they like to work, in that room. And Lee was young and learning and coming up in the field. And she just became the greatest, man. She was, as far as a producer and a director of talent, a chooser of voices and talent, she was just spectacular. And she was so great to work with. And she was, when we did shows, whoever produced them or put them together, Lee was the one. I'm sure you know this, Peter. I know, Lee was the one who, gave the final word on whether shows were ready.
Yeah. Well, actually, on more or less everything. But Larry, just let's go back a bit. I'm
glad I that out because I'm now
No, that's fine. I'm intrigued. You're 20 years old at A&R. How did you get into it in the beginning? Yeah. I mean, before, when you were a teenager or a kid, did you want to do this?
Yes, I'm a classically trained piano player. Phil Ramone is a classically trained violinist from Cape Town, South Africa. I do believe that the best recording engineers are they themselves musicians, because you have a musical sensibility, music, as opposed to engineers who are just strictly technicians. They can be good too, and there are many. There are good engineers of all kinds, but I always thought that the best were musicians themselves. So my parents at the time said, "Where do you want to go to school? Your sister went here. Where do you want to go?" And I said, "Nothing doing. I want to go to New York and get into the recording business." Now, that being said, I had an uncle, Walter Yetnikoff, who ran CBS Records. And Uncle Walter would come to the house on holidays, and he'd say, "Okay, kids, go out to the car." And he'd pop the trunk open, and there were records. This is like it's like a scene from a movie, right? We'd go out to the car and say, "Whoa." And he said, "Take whatever you want," So we grabbed gobs of records. And of course, music, records, Uncle Walter, all that was my, what really inspired me to get into the business. So when it came time to go to school. I said, no, I want to try to get a job. I want to work. And you'll be happy to know I finished my college education in my 50s. I did do that. So I'm very happy about that. But I didn't at the time. And so 78, pounded the pavement with resumes. A little word from Uncle Walter didn't hurt either. Walter was a friend of Phil's, so he said, my nephew's looking to. So I got in but it was the ground level at A&R. It was sweeping the floors. It was making duplicating tapes. And so, it wasn't, the rest of it I had to do, and the rest of what happened with me. So that was how I entered and got in. And then, of course, Phil was always looming large. And if you got to work with Phil, you'd made it. So it was Arnold and Ramone. That was Arnold and Ramone, A&R Recording, 322 West 48th Street. Phil's office was there. And 799 7th Avenue was where the big room was, where some of the ThunderCats music was recorded. Oh, my God. McCartney, Ram, all the Steely Dan stuff, all the Billy Joel stuff, Dionne Warwick. I mean, you name it. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. That was one of the premier New York recording studios.
Right.
So it was great to work there. It was a great training ground. We did jingles by day and records by night. Jingles was a constant cycle of rhythm, horn, strings, vocals. Rhythm, out. Horns come in, out. Overdub. Strings come in, out. And then the vocals, and be all that you can be. All these commercials that we did for so many things were during the day. And then, but I'm talking about working with musicians like Steve Gadd, Will Lee, Ralph McDonald, the cream of the crop. A lot of the people Bernie got for the Thundercat, those same musicians. So, I mean, the experience and the training ground at this point in time for this kid was fantastic. And
you said, so you were grabbing handfuls of records out of your uncle's trunk. What kind of records were you grabbing?
Oh, whatever there was, I don't remember.
All right.
Yeah, anything and everything.
Anything. So it would be rock and roll. It would be classic. It would be whatever.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Do you still have those records?
I don't have any of my. I have one set of vinyl of all the records that I did. I kept those vinyls. It's like a little stack about this big.
Right.
And then I kept two sets of Beatle records, one stereo and one mixed with European and some mono stuff.
Right.
Matthew talked about mono. Just like it really got my head going. Matthew was talking about oratones, and that came from Phil. That came from Phil. We would mix a Billy record, and Phil would say, all right, great, now it's done. Listen on the oratone, which was, Matthew is right, it's a little wooden speaker this big. That's where that came from. So a lot of the things that Matthew was talking about came through me, through Phil, and through A&R. Listen and to see if it sounds good, and the mix is still kicking ass on that little oratone, because if somebody's in their car, and they have a stereo car, and one of the speakers is crapped out and the other one isn't too good, we still want the mix to sound good and kicking and popping.
No, I mean, we talked about that, and that it's astonishing to me how, well, we can come back to this later, but, and I don't want to make us sound like a bunch of old farts and, it was all much better then, because, it's evolution and things change. But the quality of sound recording has so declined.
Yeah.
And I'm not a professional in sound. I mean, obviously I've been in studios up the wazoo, but I don't, the first thing I learned, the very first session I ever went to, okay, well, we think we've got the mix and we think we're okay with it. Play it through this shit speaker. Yeah. Because most people are listening to it through shit speakers. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know that's a long time ago, and I understand that things change, but I think, we really do lose. We have lost a great deal of quality. Now, the question is whether that matters or not, because I think to a lot of people it doesn't. But anyway, a question I have for you, Curcio, I haven't tried very hard, I must admit, but I would like to get him on this podcast.
Yeah.
And are you still in touch with him?
I'm making a note, because I want to get back to something you just said.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I saw John. No, I didn't see him then. I was recently up with Elliot, visiting with my friend, with one of my mentors, Elliot Shiner, who did Steely Dan. And we went to see another colleague of ours that's in a nursing home up there together. And Curcio is part of that group, but John wasn't with us. But people's lives have gone on different trajectories, and they've done things. They've had life stuff happen to them. So I don't know, maybe people aren't in this mindset anymore. But remind me to give you my story later of why this has never left my mind. Okay, just remind me.
Well, do it now.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Now's as
good
a time as any.
Tell me now.
Okay. All right, here we go. I was a substance abuse counselor from 2015 to 2020. It's something I'd always wanted to dabble in and help. I wanted to do something to help. I was in advertising for 21 years, music business, ThunderCats, whatever. So I did it. And until COVID came along, then I stopped that. So I did admissions at a rehab here in Queens. And the admissions process was lengthy, and it was arduous, and it was hard. People don't come into rehab saying, my life's a mess. I'm on the balls of my ass. I think I'll go to rehab. They come in hurting and like all screwed up, right? So I have to ask the questions to get them to see if they qualify for rehab. So it went something like this with me. Do you use cannabis? How much? How frequently? Do you use heroin? How much? How frequently? And they would answer me. Any history of sexual violence in your family? All of a sudden, silence. All right. Couldn't get anything out of them. And then I'd say, by the way, if they're the right age, did you ever watch ThunderCats growing up? And all of a sudden, this person who was closed down in the shell would light up, smile on the face, and saying, what did you say? Did you ever watch ThunderCats? And yeah. Who was your favorite? What was your favorite show? Who was your favorite character? If it was a girl, sometimes they'd say, I was Chitara growing up, right? And I thought to myself, holy shit, this really meant a lot to people, because look at what just happened. I did that all the time in the rehab. And this was, it was a while ago already, because, I've been out of it since 2020, since COVID. But it amazed me. It amazed me. I would use ThunderCats to get through to people, to care for people, and ThunderCats was a vehicle to start helping people that suffered from the disease of addiction. So anyway, that's my story that I wanted to tell you.
I know. I mean, a lot of people have done this. And again, I apologize to anybody listening, because I've said it so many times. I mean, I came to this whole thing, this whole kind of, aficionado, whatever you want to call it, fan group, very late. And I am stunned by those admissions, that, latchkey kids and ThunderCats was my parent, and, I didn't know who I was, and it's just amazing, Larry. It's amazing. Now, I just really look at that. I mean, obviously, when we were working on it, we weren't thinking like that at all.
Right.
I mean, I've got into trouble before because I've kind of been rather lighthearted about, a lot of the stories. There's a lot of old bollocks in it. You're talking to Jagger and this and that, but that doesn't mean that we didn't take it seriously. Obviously there's a lot of fooling around in the studio. I mean, but underlying it, we somehow, I don't know how, it's certainly nothing to do with me, we got it right.
And this is what amazed. I listened to the one with the two guys, your podcast with those two. Are they brothers or something?
Yeah, Ryan and David from the Radical Retro Rewind. Yeah.
I listened to that, and I listened to you, Peter, talk about some characters I forgot already who they are. Some characters and places. They said there's toys made for them, and my mind was reeling back, and I know why this was great. It was a communal effort between the technical stuff and what you guys did, but we never worked together.
No.
To be doing this now and to be talking about this now is remarkable. It's remarkable that it's held.
Well, and you know, Larry, I mean, I looking back now, I regret very much that I didn't interact much more with the studio. I mean, I know why I didn't. We were all so busy. You know, I had a lot of other stuff going on in my life, but I really regret that. And I particularly regretted it. And, you know, Buddha and everybody else, anybody who knows anything about me, I mean, I don't flatter anybody, but I particularly regretted it when you and I first started talking about Thundercat of the Day.
Yeah.
And it was like talking to somebody that you'd been at school with or at college.
I remember
and I thought, this guy, why, what a lack in, you know, in my life that basically for 40, you know, this guy was there all the time.
Yeah.
Well,
the way I thought of it after we got off that phone call was like we had fought in the same war, but on different battlefields.
Right.
I thought that was a good analogy because, oh, you were there too. You were in that battle too, but we fought over here and you fought over here, but we were all fighting for the same cause. And yeah, I mean, we used to hear that the scripts had to be run through the psychology aspect of it, and it used to blow my mind. I mean, not that the content isn't important, but as a technician, my job is to record correctly and to record cleanly, correctly, so it can be worked later, not fix it in the mix. I heard Matthew utter those words too. We don't fix it in the mix. We sent the finished product out for the drawing to be done. But they could be, you know, Bob McFadden and Earle Hyman could be swearing their brains out, which they did all the time. And I don't care what they're saying. I'm going to record it correctly. I'm going to record it correctly because that might be part of the script. Maybe they're going X-rated. I don't know. There was a lot of X-rated stuff, let me tell you. Oh my God.
Well, Larry, go back to, you know, obviously you were a crazed musician, rock and roll studio guy, worked with some wonderful names. I want to come back to that as well, actually. Yeah. So we need to get you back more than, you know, I know we're only 20 minutes in, but there's so much we could talk about. But the transition from recording music to recording voices.
Right.
I mean, what was going on in your, you know, obviously, you know, you just said earlier that at one point you felt it was a come down, but what was going through your mind when you started recording voices? What was it that made you suddenly go, wait a minute, I need to pay attention, or whatever it is you decided?
Yeah, what it was for me, it was recording the ensemble. Okay, recording one voice is you in a studio, Sean or Peter, with your microphone in front of you, and you can record it on whatever you're recording it onto. But when you're recording an ensemble, a group of actors like Lee and Jules did with their material, you're talking about a performance, just like a band, just like an orchestra, okay? And that brings a whole different aspect to it, because the nuance and the emotions that the actors get from bouncing off each other and saying their lines together is much different than recording a voice on a mic with a microphone. So that would be the transition that you mentioned, Peter. The difference of recording a voice and a microphone, which is pretty cut and dry, straightforward.
Right.
But an ensemble cast doing something that you want some emotion to come out of, that's where I realized, hey, wait a minute. And there's a way to do this. There are ways to do it. We tried gates at one point. And a gate is something that when the microphone is not on, the gate closes down, because Tony and Matthew, and they all went crazy for clean dialogue, right? And I'll talk about this after if you want to.
Yeah.
Breaths in speech, breaths and pauses and all that is just as is like the rests in a musical score.
Right.
The same thing. If you don't have those things, it's weird. And we might not say, hey, that's weird, but we do notice it and we do feel it or not, as the case may be. So all of that comes into play. My setup of choice was usually, most all the time, the 414 microphone, which we used on drums. Like what was our favorite for Steely Dan drum sound? Phil used different mics, but I love the 414 microphone. So I'd set up the small Atlas booms with 5 microphones in a circle, music stands, scripts on the music stands. Come on in, and they're all ready to do the show. So they would read the script, and vocal sound effects were always super fun. We can go into that a little bit too.
Right.
But that was when, to get back to your question, Peter, that's when I realized that the art of dialogue recording in an ensemble is just as important and nuanced and complicated as recording a rhythm section or a horn section or a string section.
Right, right. Well, I'll go back to when I went to LA and recorded a show there and directed we had quite a big ensemble cast with some quite big names. And, everybody was sitting around. They were sitting on the stools while they recorded.
Okay.
It's an action show, and you can't do this. You can't sit there. This is you can't sit and say, some aggressive or funny. You have to be alive and moving. And there was one guy in particular who's very, very well-known voice artist who fought me endlessly. And eventually I took him aside and said, look, if you're not going to do this, I'm going to recast you.
And he refused.
And you can't do that. I know I'm a very famous person. I mean, if you don't do this, if you don't interact with the rest of the cast, and by the way, the rest of the cast, I think 2 or 3 of them had never done voice work before, and I cast them for other reasons. I mean, obviously acting reasons. I'm just going to replace you.
Mm.
Because this is an ensemble, and we have to work off each other and together. And if you're sitting there like some schlemiel, anyway, it was a fight. It was a battle. And I never saw that in what we did in New York, ever. I mean, there was so much more life in the recordings that came out of New York, in my opinion.
I only saw it in one instance. Who was Hot Wing? Who was the actor? If his name eludes me. Who was Hot Wing?
Maggie.
Huh?
Maggie
No, Hot Wing,
African American actor who passed away.
Yeah, was it Caesar?
Adolf Caesar.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the only time I've seen what you just described, Peter, was Adolf, because he'd come to the studio he'd come to the recession after being up for 3 days. And I always have the vision of him like the Peter O'Toole character, taking him into the casting in the hand truck, right? I have outtakes of Adolf, man. He was out of it, but that is the only time that, again, Lee, and I mean, I didn't see Jules direct that much because Jules was already on his way back to the office when I came on the ThunderCats scene. Jules didn't come to the studio too much either. But Lee, if there was anything that you guys wanted to pull out of the actors, Lee was just the best. She was just the best at talking to people, getting good performances, getting good takes out of the actors.
Right.
Then you had Earle Hyman, who was a Shakespearean trained actor, and we would crack up because, first of all, when we heard Panthro's audition tape in the very beginning, we played the tape and it was like, what's going on here? The machine is wobbling. What's going on? He had such a bizarre voice, low and sort of range, like all over the place. And we would say, like, maybe get a pickup line. We're going to get a pickup line. All right, Earle, the line is, okay, let's go. Okay, so Earle's coming in to do the pickup lines. He'd go out to the mic, just himself, and he'd go up to the mic and he'd go, okay, let's go. And then we'd be down on the floor laughing behind the console because he put so much in, not because we weren't laughing at him. We were laughing at the amount of energy and put into this one line, and got to do it 5 times. So he'd be up there. Okay, here we go again. Oh, and then we'd go through it again.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that problem a lot, but that's very interesting, Peter. That
well, I think, you know, this again, there's so much stuff we could be talking about. This business of ensemble casting. I mean, now, as you know, it's very rare that you would have 5 actors in a studio on doing, you know, one's going to be in a house out of Mongolia, or and I simply don't understand how anybody can justify that other than for cost. And that's not much of a justification, because you're not acting off each other. And so we've had a discussion, somebody else in the show, and I was surprised to hear them say, well, you know, yeah, we're actors and we get over it. And the person I feel really bad for is the editor. What? How about the person who's actually writing the board? You know, that's where the skill is. And then, of course, because, you know, I'm not an engineer, Larry, and, you know, I mean, I'm probably talking through my ear hole, but of course it's different if you're just writing one mic. Mm-hmm. But then the whole feeling is different. And again, this goes back to, I mean, we're of a certain age. I mean, you know, I'm not even 30 yet, but so what? It's like, I get to the point where I say, okay, this is evolution. This is what's happening. This is the way people are recording now. This is the da-di-da-di-da. Does it matter? Because it matters to me, and so what? I'm one ticket buyer. But does it matter to the market, to the audience? And sadly, I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I go back and forth with that thinking, and I think we talked a little bit about this before also. I go back and forth because I will never forget when MP3 came on the scene.
Right.
I listened to all the stuff that we had recorded on MP3, and I realized what it was. It was a low compression, pretty bad sounding thing. And then the sad realization that it's not about quality anymore. Really, it's about quantity. Yep. I can put my whole 2,000 song library on this pen right here, plug it in, and have it wherever I go. So, but I think that there's all shades in between. I think that vinyl makes a resurgence. Vinyl goes back into the shadows. I think that there's an appreciation for analog and doing things in the analog ensemble warm way that we're talking about, versus the advertising driven, let's time compress this down, because if we get 3 extra seconds, we can get Geico, we can get a Geico spot at the end.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, I think that we're going back and forth. I think that analog and the ways that you're talking about, I don't think that'll ever die or go away. I think that the difference will always be recognized. I think that it'll always be, okay. Case in point, subtitles on so many Netflix shows that I watch today. Why is that? Yeah. And I had to ask myself, is my audio system going down? Is what's going on here? What's going on here is there must be people that don't really understand mixing. There must be people that are fiddling with technology like Dolby decoding and stuff like that, and then not encoding and decoding correctly. And these things must be happening. So we've got to have, even in the English language, we need to have our subtitles on. So I said, am I going crazy? I took out my phone. I brought up an episode of ThunderCats, something tried and true that I know, and it sounds kick-ass on my phone. I can hear every word. I can hear the music mixed up and around the dialogue and the vocal sound effects, up and around. That was why we put itching powder in Tom Perkins' hat, because you're bringing this all back now. Tom, if you're listening, sorry, it was a he set his faders up in a line and sit back with his feet up on the console and his cowboy hat. And we'd see that, and I go, that's not mixing. And Matthew and Tony and John Crenshaw, they knew. John knew from his brother Marshall.
Yeah.
Mixing is an active sport. You got to have your hands on the faders. So, anyway, before I go off on a tirade, this was complicated stuff. These were music cues. I had 4 sets of stereo faders on the 24-track. Dialogue here. We did some sound effects in Mumra, and we did some sound effects in some of the voices to make them what they were, the burbles. But as the show goes on, I'm reading the script and I'm riding levels. You got to ride levels, up, down, around. Make it sound exciting and dramatic and warm and loving and good. You don't just set it and forget it. That's not mixing. So that's another problem, I believe, with I think that digital music has incredible dynamic range. So when you have a loud passage in music, it can get very loud, and a soft passage can get very soft. That's where compression comes in. Matthew talked about compression also, but I hear that on some Netflix series also. What are you doing? The music is, I can't hear the dialogue. I know you like Tears for Fears. Everybody wants to rule the world, but I don't want to hear it that loud. I want to hear the actor who's saying the words. What are you doing here? So I go back to my ThunderCats. Yep, I'm not crazy. We did it right.
Yeah. No, and for me, it goes across a whole range of. I hate to use the word art, but call it art for the sake of argument. Writing. You compare a modern most. There are exceptions, obviously, but a modern procedural or private eye novel with, say, Chandler or Hammett or whoever. Those guys, they were artists in writing. It wasn't just the story. It wasn't just much, really exactly the same thing that you're talking about. And again, I keep saying, well, does it matter? I don't know. It matters to me. But going back to talking about subtitles, I keep thinking, wait a minute, I've got a Bose speaker here. A Bose system, and I've got a big screen, and I'm not going deaf. What? I've got to turn on subtitles. It's. And I can remember, Larry, when I very, very first started, when I worked with an old editor, in the days of the pick sync. You remember the old pick syncs? And I would have to stand over him to watch this tiny little screen. And he smoked all the time. So I was sick, but after 2 hours, I was sick, and he drank all the time. And in order to get him to work, I had to drink with him to such an extent that I would occasionally lose my car. But anyway, that's a whole other story. He was an old, I guess when I was 18 or 17 or whatever, 20, I don't know, he must have been 50 odd. So he went back to really old style sound recording. And he would just go off on a tear about how terrible, and I'm talking about 50 years ago, sound recording was then. So if it was bad, imagine now, and I could never get away when I was shooting any, just documentary, anything. I could never get away without the engineer saying to me, where's my ambient sound? Where's the ambient soundtrack? Oh, shit, I didn't record it, And I thought, well, why? What does he need that for? You know what I mean? It's just different now. I'm sorry. You talk about you renting. No, I'm renting.
it's fascinating. Peter, how long were you with Rankin Bass?
Not that long, Larry. I mean, I think I showed up in '85.
Oh, so right after ThunderCats started.
Yeah, well, I mean, ThunderCats was already underway.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'd been a couple of years before on a movie of the week that they did, and then I'm never quite sure when I left or was kicked out or whatever, however we want to phrase it. But it was basically we'd done comic strip by that time, so it must have been what, 1989.
It was 84 to 88. It was 84 to 88, which was the run. 84 to 88. It was 4 years.
That was the whole Rankin Bass thing. Okay, so in '80, then that was it. 4 years. That's it.
Yeah,
that's right. I was only there that time.
That group shot that I sent you, you of course, are you in that? And were you in that shot?
Yeah. I mean, Crenshaw's doing the rabbit finger.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, I couldn't resist doing it for him. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But there again, you see, I didn't know John. I mean, I'd met him, and the extent of my interaction with John was, this is a really funny guy. But after a while, you just want to say, "Shut up!
Yeah.
It's too much,"
Yeah.
But we spoke on the. I don't think you've seen it yet because we haven't put it out, have we, Buddha?
No, not yet. That was going to be coming out shortly, though. Yeah.
You spoke with John?
It was like, it was like yesterday. It was fantastic.
I can't wait to hear.
Same with Tony and Matthew. Obviously, I know pretty well, but. Anyway, we can't keep going over that same raw. So let me go back to.
You spoke with Tony, you said?
Oh yeah, we got Tony.
Yeah.
So when we do the ensemble, we've got at least you, Matthew, Tony, and Crenshaw.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
I mean, which should be very interesting. Now, now meeting all the, obviously it's my first time meeting everybody. That's going to be a lot of fun with all you guys put together. It seems like, especially hearing even what you're talking about, how you guys had fun while you were working.
Oh, God. Oh, God. It was 4 years of fun. And, it's always easy, 2020 hindsight. It's always easy to, to say it. But I was aware of it when it was happening, that this was, that this was a job. We were paid well. Howie was good to us. At the end, we had 2 rooms, two of these mixed production rooms, and we'd still be recording dialogue downstairs. And it was fantastic. I was thinking, I sent you that picture, Peter, of my wife. We got married at 87.
Yeah.
Well, Steve Gruskin got married during the ThunderCats, and Michael Unger got married, I believe. Yeah.
And didn't Crenshaw have a baby?
Probably, yes. Ray Jean. Yeah, he had Ray Jean. That's right. So it was a very fertile time in a lot of ways. Very fertile.
I think one of the things that I realized, we keep wondering why it was a success and sort of a concatenation of accidents. But I realized one thing is that we took the work very seriously, but we didn't take ourselves seriously. And I think, we talked about this with Mescamin yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that maybe contributed to the show in some way, because you had this bunch of people, particularly engineers and the actors, but also the writers, who were very professional and who did take the work seriously, but they didn't take themselves seriously, and that brings a certain levity, or if I'm going to be really pretentious about it, maybe it brings a certain humility to it.
Absolutely. I to draw similarities. It takes all the things that you mentioned. It wasn't one thing. It was everything combined that created this success. And just like a good song is a good song, okay? when everybody's stripping vocals and separating rhythm sections through AI, so they have Beatles stuff that comes out. You listen to the rhythm section of Drive My Car, or I'm Looking Through You, and you listen to it's like the recording is stunning on a little mono speaker. The recording is like, yeah, it's Ringo and it's them playing, but it's like that. So a good song is a good song is a good song 50, 60 years later. And the same thing goes for us. Whatever we created with this, a good cartoon or a good, whatever we did, a good show is a good show is a good show, and it's a combination of everything put together that we had. And, you're talking about the comic, listen, McFadden went crazy. He would come to us and hand us a 1/4-inch tape from his Wallensack that he did it at home. I don't know if you know this, but he'd say, look, guys, I had this idea for a show. Tell me if you like it. And if you want, you could put some music to it. And it'd be like a circus barker biting the heads off chicken. He'd play like he'd jump in and out of 5 characters all at home on his Wallensack and bring it and say, could you put music to it? So you want to talk about fun? So John and I and Tony would look at each other and say, on top of everything else, of course we'll do it. Of course we'll do it. Because it was so funny. It was so out there. And like, he's probably the age that I am right now, these guys, McFadden and Hammond and whatever. But they were fantastic, funny people. They were funny. Yeah. They were funny people. And they had good content, the stuff that you guys wrote. They had the content. If it was schlock stuff, it wouldn't have been so great. It had meaning. It had lessons to be learned. It had great stories. And then you had the direction of Tony came on board, but first it was Lee and Matthew. And Matthew was like, I know how happy he was in the beginning. Matthew was all a Twitter about being in the recording studio. And I felt good about that because I know why I was happy. And I had that happiness my whole career thus far because I loved the studio. I just loved being in the studio and doing what we did. So it was a combination of things that led to this, what we have, what still stands up today,
Yeah, it was. I mean, it would be great to get sort of the core of that group together and do something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the other thing, of course, is that I don't know, because I'm looking back over my various experiences, and and I'm not a great animation person. I mean, I did 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever it is, very long shows. But I wasn't brought up in animation, and I left in the early 90s. I think never did any. Well, that's another story. I don't know that I've ever worked with a group of people that had that many interesting characters. I don't know. I mean,
the people or the scripts, character scripts, or people?
No. The people, the group. I mean, look at the writers: Bill Overgard, Matthew when he wrote, Len, who not my kind of guy, but were very, very interesting, and so on and so forth. So we had the writers, most of them interesting personalities. We have the recording crew, most of them crazy, We have the we have the actors. I'm not sure that I ever worked on another production with that much character and that much lunacy.
And see, just what you're talking about right now, you compare that to doing something piecemeal and flying the lines in from here and there and then cutting it together. Yes, it can be done, but is it going to have the same heart and warmth and feeling? Probably not. Probably not. So it was the right time and the right place with the right people and the right content, again. And let me tell you, when SilverHawks came on, we were, one of the great moments was when we found out that we had beat out He-Man in the #1 lineup, whatever it was. We were just like over the moon. We heard that you're going to be writing scripts for season 2, and then we started SilverHawks overlapping ThunderCats. So we were a factory. We were, and we got it down to such a science, and the way that we did things, it was fabulous. And it's we love SilverHawks because for us it was more of an adult nature, like it was more of an adult content. They dealt with, am I wrong? I don't know. It just felt like that to us.
No, it definitely was, as far as like show wise. It 100% was definitely, or for the older kids as opposed to ThunderCats. Yeah.
And then
I mean, SilverHawks, it has a place in a bigger place maybe in my heart, because basically I did the development. I mean, you know, Jules had the idea, and obviously there are lots of other people involved. I'm not trying to take credit for it, but ThunderCats I took over, if you like. I mean, the scripts from Len, and it's an interesting thing. People's memory, including mine, by the way. So, Len has a friend, or of course Len is the late Len, a friend who basically took over his legacy, if you like, and has all his material, and spoke to Len endlessly about everything, including the problems that Len had with Rankin. And people ask me, what did you do on ThunderCats? And I said, well, somewhere around about script 8 or 10 or 12, I took over the head writer. I mean, regardless of my credit, and showing and blah, 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 blah. Now, I know, as far as one ever knows anything, that I never had a single note from Len from about script. Well, I never had a note from Len, ever. Mm-hmm. This guy says, and I believe him absolutely, that Len was involved in every single script. That's 130 scripts. And I said, well, have I lost my mind? You know, and so our memories of the show, I mean, I think yours and mine are more or less in agreement, but you just think to yourself, well, I guess, I don't know, maybe there's some alternative dimension in which something else happened.
Well, again, we're living our lives away from the show and the work. We were all living our lives in addition, so we all had things going on. So who knows?
So, Larry, do you still play? Do you play?
Yeah, I have a piano. I sit down at the keyboard, not as regularly as I'd like to, but I do. I'll always love my piano. You know, I feel when I play the piano, the world goes away. You know, it's like my meditation. So I love.
Yeah, right. Because one of the things we're thinking about doing is we're going to have. I mean, and Pete Canarossi has said that he'll do it. Yep. Is we're going to have, because we have several people who play. I mean, Crenshaw plays. I don't know how well they will play. Mike plays. Angar plays. You play. Chris Trengo plays. One of the things we're thinking of doing is recording, the ThunderCats theme song with all you guys.
Right.
So,
hold on. Give me exactly 1 second, because I think we may have beaten you to it.
Oh.
Maybe you may have heard this.
Like, if you have beat us to it, it'll just be the second version, you know?
Yeah. No, I'm still going to do it. I mean, as long as I can get people, but apart from anything else, we can have Chris providing a whole horn section,
Excuse me.
ThunderCats are on the move.
Everybody now. Here we go. Crenshaw on me.
Thundercats are loose. Feel the magic. Dig those roars. Thundercats are loose. Thunder, 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 thundercats.
A la Bill Murray. You know Bill Murray?
Right. Real flat, Larry.
Yeah.
Is that you or John on the vocals there?
I'm playing the piano. John's playing the claves, and then I did background vocals later. But we did that one of the last days in Studio C at RCA when the show ended. We were very sad, but we said we have to lift ourselves up here. What are we going to do? So John and I did that. We multi-tracked that little Bill Murray ode to Bill Murray.
So, anyway, that's what we're thinking about doing that, and it basically all depends on Pete because he's got to do the sheets, you know, and he's got to put it all together. But I mean, Chris, you know, can provide an entire horn section, so that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Pete did the Copper Kid, and
Yep.
Pete,
he did the Copper Kid. He was the voice of Copper Kid, and then he worked. He played the keyboard on the theme songs, and then also the sound effects for both shows.
Right.
I mean, he's a very modest guy because he obviously did a lot with Bernie, a lot of work with Bernie. And of course, the sad thing is that we can't get Bernie because he's just completely lost interest. I mean, was it you, Buddha, who spoke to him? So when he basically said,
we shared a couple of emails, and but yeah, it seemed like he wasn't really interested in kind of talking about stuff. He told me a little bit, but then that was kind of it. It seemed like he was definitely not that part of his life was behind him. My take on it. But again, he was very nice to me, but it just seems like he's kind of moved on.
We have this memory of Bernie. He was in the studio, and we were with him on one of the sessions, and for some reason, somebody got avocados. I don't know why they were there or what they were for, but we always joke about this. Bernie ended up sitting on the couch with an avocado that seemed like as big as a cantaloupe, and he's sitting on the couch going, "Do you believe the size of this thing?" And he did it for like 10 minutes, and we thought, ooh. So Bernie and his avocado, it was always a funny memory of us.
Larry, did you work with Maury Laws?
I know the name. He was an arranger, Maury Laws.
Maury, I think, preceded Bernie for Rankin Bass.
I know the name. I probably worked with him, but not a lot. Yeah,
right.
Everybody passed through A&R.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question about Bernie. So I know you had said you did it was the dialogue, but so did you do any sessions or anything with Bernie for?
I was around some of the sessions, but not behind the board.
Okay.
It was to meet somebody or to see somebody or ask somebody a question, but I did not record the music for ThunderCats or SilverHawks. Now the SilverHawks library also, Bernie did a whole nother library for SilverHawks.
Yeah.
Over the years, we wound up crossbreeding stuff from one library to the other. It's funny. There's a woman who got in touch with me. I could find her name. I'm not going to be on the phone again, but she was very interested in the music, Thundercat music.
I think I know who it is. Yeah, I believe it was Celeste.
Celeste, that's right. Yeah.
She's a friend. Very nice woman. She's fantastic.
Yeah. And so I told her all I did. The music masters we made safeties of frequently because they were always cut up. The masters were cut to shreds when we got done with them, so we had to make frequent safeties. And they ended up, I don't know where they ended up, in storage, I guess. Then there was a time I was thinking about technical stuff we used Ampex 456 2-inch Grandmaster tape for our show masters. This was the 2-inch tape that everybody knows that, right? And there was one time where the backing started to fall off the tape. It was a bad batch of tape, and we were freaked because we had shows to get out, and the backing was falling off and gumming up the machines.
Jeez.
So enter the tampon. So we devised and later patented, we didn't patent it, but a wad of tissue that resembled a tampon that we'd put over the first capstan in the tape guide to capture all the gunk that was coming off the tape.
Oh, right.
Then we did a safety. So how we had to get a second machine, we would play the tape once, make a safety on ACFA. We started to use ACFA tape, which was a better formulation. But we were all freaked out for a while about that because Ampex is bad. I forgot when that was, probably about midway through all of this, but it was horrible.
That was a very ingenious idea, though, coming up. I know it's just some tissue or whatever it was, but to clean it, running it once to clean it all up, and hopefully, it stayed.
That's right. Yeah, and it worked, but it was, it was. I mean, of course, we stopped using it immediately, but there were probably about 5 or 6 shows that were affected before we realized right away that we had to change if we wanted to keep getting the shows out.
That kind of leads me to a very random question. It probably didn't happen, but can you remember of any other incidents like that where it's like the oh crap moments while doing the recording type, session, not even just sessions, like maybe after the fact and post, whatever it would be, but it's like, moments that you kind of had to quick on your feet, fix an issue or anything like that to get the episode ready to get sent over to, a pack or anything like that.
Yeah, really, there were so many steps involved to get to the final pilot tone and strike that we ended up sending to Japan that there wasn't any like emergency stuff like that. If we made a mistake, if something was forgotten, or maybe if a vocal sound effects was forgotten, we would always adjust that before we sent out the final. But no, not really.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's just fun. I figure that's one of those questions, because you never know. That's one of the things that you also forget about.
That's a question for you have that in the music world where Steely Dan's famous song Second Arrangement was recorded when we were doing the Gaucho project, and somebody erased it, and they decided never to do the song again. It never came out. But now there's an aha moment where somebody was freaked out about that.
I can imagine.
Kind of emergency, or when you're recording an orchestra and you forgot to turn on one of the mics, or you forgot to record or something like that. We were doing multiple takes of everything, again and again. So there was always something to fall back on. And if there wasn't, Lee or Tony or Peter or whatever would bring the actors back in to redo the line if something was missing.
Okay.
Larry, here's a question out of left field a bit. I can't remember who we were talking to the other day, but somebody who didn't remember that Lee wasn't the only voice director, that Matthew and Tony did a lot of direction. And I wanted to ask, in fact, the reason this came about is the question I wanted to ask was, did they have different styles, those 3 people, in directing voices?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What they were very, very subtle differences, but it was basically the personality of the person directing. It wasn't like any real stylistic difference, like, oh, well, Tony asks for 30 takes of something. I want to work with Lee because she only asks for 10. It wasn't like that, but it was differences where Matthew was maybe more playful a lot. I remember Matthew being very playful with the actors. He had a real playful flair. Tony was more like businesslike, because I think Tony was the last one to come online as far as learning that skill. Because remember, we were a factory. We had, with the more people that could do stuff,
right,
more efficient we were. including the production side of it. Lee or Tony or Matthew would say, "Lar, could you fly in the music to this? You know what cues to use." "Yeah, I know what cues to use." And I'd put together a rough, fly of a show, and then they'd come and tune it up. So, and that was the great thing about this. Everybody sort of pitched in because we were so busy. It was such a success, and we were so happy about what was happening. It was fantastic. It was.
Yeah, I definitely think the pressure contributed to. I mean, the fact that we were all working under a lot of pressure and maybe couldn't second guess and change, and maybe this is better than that, which happens a lot. And the other thing is that once Jules, particularly, but Lee to a lesser extent, had confidence in whatever was going on, they basically just said, "Do it."
That's right.
There wasn't. I mean, I don't recall ever having to send a script to Jules after, or maybe he got them, but I don't remember any notes from him after about number 15 or something. Lee was obviously Lee and I worked very closely on the scripts, but there wasn't a lot of oversight.
Yes.
And we were such a small crew anyway that everybody on it, as far as I remember, had a particular skill. I mean, they were either, a recording engineer, a musician, a writer, or there wasn't any. Yeah, I can only remember one executive who will remain nameless, who everybody loathed. Everybody else was a working stiff.
Yeah. I think to address the idea of pressure, I think that pressure is good when it's a pressure that's out of excitement for getting something done in a creative, good way. To make the example, pressure with Phil was not fun, which is why I did that, because pressure with Phil was like he was nuts. There was a lot of stuff that happened that that's for another time, another show. But so that the kind of pressure we have with ThunderCats is that it's going so well, we need to try to ramp up the output of the studio a little bit. Can we do this? Can we do this? Can you work overtime? Can we set up another room? And we always got it done. I mean, whoever set the deadlines. I mean, who was setting the deadlines for this stuff? Was it in Japan?
I don't think anybody. I mean, the deadlines were, they were the broadcast deadlines. Everything worked back from there. Okay. Things got to be broadcast on the 15th of April. Right. So you work back until,
Right. Yeah. On the air. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember anybody. I mean, occasionally somebody would, probably Lee would say, I need another 3 scripts. But you can't have them. I haven't got them. It's well, you better get them. But okay, fine.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think the other thing about pressure, of course, is that if you all kind of like each other, or even if you can only tolerate each other, and you're working under a lot of pressure, it's quite easy because, can you help me with this? Yeah, I can help with this. Can you help with this? No, fuck off.
But it wasn't taken to heart. It was playful. Fuck off. Get out of here. Busy.
Yeah.
There were times in the studio where we get lists of costs. I don't know whether it was from Howie or Lee wanted it, or there was lists of costs that for, I don't know, the week, the month, whatever. And there was one time where it came through, and at the bottom it said lunches for Larry Frank, like $600 or $700, and it was it was a document that everybody, it was serious, and I think Tony gave it to me. He goes, "What is this? What have you been doing?" Well, of course, it was a joke, but it was like, I guess I was known to eat a lot. Yeah. What is it? Hey, my wife. What is it?
Your favorite Thundercat. Bring your favorite Thundercat on.
Come here, Sharon. They want to say hello. She said it was April Fool's Day. So, Sharon, come here. Come say hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
How are
Sharon.
you?
Nice to see you.
So Larry's favorite Thundercat.
Peter Lawrence and Sean.
I wish you'd been in the interview because I'd love to have had a different perspective. You know, listening to Larry's old bullshit about it was different from listening to yours, you know. So next time, come on next time.
Next time. I'm on my way out now, but next time. Have
Sharon,
fun.
Please do.
Sharon remembers Matthew's wedding quite fondly, right, Sharon?
I remember, tell him about, did you ever hear about the Halloween party
Oh,
at
my
Matthew's
God.
house?
Oh my God.
Oh, no, we have not. So please tell us about the Halloween party. Like,
And I made Larry a costume, and it was Ralph's costume from the honeymoon when he goes as the man from outer space.
Ralph.
And I remember we walked into the house. I remember everybody went crazy. They were like, "Oh my God, Larry's the man from outer space."
Give me that. That's my denaturizer.
We have pictures of it somewhere.
Okay.
oh,
Okay,
please send us one.
Okay, bye.
Have a good time. Yeah, that was on
So
Matthew's folks' house, I think. That was.
So we need to get everybody together, Larry, as soon as, well, when we can.
Love to do
And
that.
it would be fun. I think it would be fun.
Count me in. Count me in. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just real quick before we start wrapping things up, I do have well, one question you probably won't remember, but and another that, did you happen to keep anything from those times? I know it was very important to Tony, like he wanted to keep things from the show and things like that. So did you end up keeping anything from that time working there?
Yeah, we did a paint job in our house recently, and I came across 2 scripts. And I have a dear friend who just moved to Florida, and he's a toy collector.
Yeah, yeah.
He's into all the toys. My buddy Junior, and he said, "You wouldn't have anything from the Thundercats, would you?" So I sent him those 2 scripts. It was a Thundercats script. I forget which show, and not marked up or anything. Just a clean script, comic script.
Oh, nice.
That's all I really had. I have my T-shirt. I was going to wear my T-shirt, like I saw you, Sean, had your T-shirt on.
Yeah.
I didn't wear it. I just figured I'd go
Okay.
regular. But no, I don't. I mean, we talk about the toys, and we talk about the file cabinets full of cells that all we had to do was go like my uncle and the records, just go into the file cabinet and grab a stack of cells and what they might be, what the value might be on those things today.
Oh, yeah, right.
But I did not.
Okay. And it is like not even any of the audio side, no outtakes or anything like that.
Oh, I have tons of that. Tons of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was just saying we would love to hear sometime. I don't know, I know online it's like a 1.5 minute blooper reel that went out. I don't know if that's.
Those were all from. I hate to say this, I'm a little embarrassed, but when the internet was new.
Yeah.
And they were also clamoring for this stuff, so I sent around a couple of things in these chat groups, but I'll be happy to compile everything that I have into a Dropbox folder and just send you the link to the folder.
Yeah, do that.
That would be incredible.
Of course.
That'd be great.
Fantastic.
That'd be great.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And then, so here's another question. Just now, again, I don't know if you'd remember this, but you had mentioned it, or you had mentioned the burbles earlier, and then you also the sound effects and whatnot. So I know for a while it was kind of thought that the burbles were done with a vocoder, kind of like what Pete Canarosi did with Copper Kid. But I know when we actually talked to Pete about it, and he's oh yeah, no, he had nothing to do with that. Didn't know if it was a vocoder or not. Do you remember? Again, I know I probably should have sent you this beforehand so you could listen to it and kind of be more familiarize yourself with it. But do you remember what sound effects or how you went about creating the that iconic voice for the burbles?
Yeah. We used outboard gear. My favorite number 1 outboard gear was the DBX 160X. If you want to talk about compression is an engineer's best friend. I'm not talking about overall a final product compression, because you can do that too. But I'm talking about compressing voices, so when they yell and they climb up mountains and go, it doesn't blow your mic out. And when they're whispering like this and they're talking like snarf, you need to get out of here. It brings up the bottom and it puts down the top into a. So anyway, I don't mean to go into compression, but Matthew also mentioned compression.
Yeah.
Thank you. we harmonized. We used a harmonizer. Vocoder, I don't remember.
Right. It probably wasn't, but that was just kind of, again, the not knowing how it was done. You know?
It was
just
a piece of outboard gear. There were harmonizers and flanges. I forgot what there was an Eventide. There was one company called Eventide, which we loved. It was harmonizer and a flanger. There was a pitch shifter. Mumra's Ancient Spirits of Evil was standard. It was standard, I guess, for animation. It was, and Lino's Thundercats Ho. Those were standard to time, and they were standardized pieces that we use all the time. Okay. And there were effects on some of the vocals that we used. The burbles, exactly what they were. I can hear the sound in my voice. Funny that I don't remember, but I don't.
Okay.
It was probably an outboard gear that just made it sound robotic like that.
Okay. All right. And again, I just figured I'd ask because I know that's been a question amongst fans, for a while, trying to figure out what that, like what was done to make that particular sound for the burbles. But
don't forget, you can, once you have the dialogue recorded, you can you send it through an aux feed on the board, and you can do 100 things with it, depending on what outboard gear it's going through. You can change the pitch up and down.
Yeah.
You can add echo. You can add slap echo. You can flange it. You can make it sound like robotic, like the burbles. You can do anything with outboard gear. But of course, you have to have a good performance in it, or else it's meaningless.
Yeah, right.
Started with good performances, and we, did stuff to it. We manipulated the music backwards and forwards. Tony would say, you know what, we need a transition between, the action cue versus the cat's lair. I said, can you let's flip that button that Bernie did. Let's flip it upside down. So instead of going, it goes.
Yeah.
We did that a lot. I mean, that's standard, Beatles, Brian Wilson stuff, tape manipulation stuff. And we did all of that stuff with. I mean, Bernie's library was very well used. Very well used.
Oh, wow.
What else?
Well, no, I was going to say, I think, we're kind of over the time we usually go. We usually go around an hour. We've, taken up a bit of your time now. Peter, do you have any other questions you'd like to end things up with here?
Yeah, I mean, I've probably got 100, but I'm saving for next time, and some of them, would be much more my personal interest in recording and music and this and that, not relevant to the show, but we'll definitely talk and we'll get everybody together, and that'll be nice. That'd be good.
And I want to thank you guys for doing this, both of you. What's your background, Sean?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Well, I was actually in music for over 20 years. I was a performer for a very long time. And then also a collector. As you can see behind me, all the toys and stuff. So I may know your friend that ended up getting that script from you. I've been very into the toy and collecting world for almost equally as actually longer than the music world. But yeah, that was kind of what led me down the road to, what we're doing today, being collecting, even the music stuff, and then doing the books, and then now doing the podcast.
Well, I'm glad you are, because, it's like that, it's like the Billy Joel thing. That was like a 3-hour interview with me, and they used like 30 seconds. It's my 30 seconds of fame on the Billy Joel documentary. But it's meaningful. It's meaningful because what we did so long ago is still relevant today and has meaning. Yeah. Enjoy it.
Well, I mean, your question about Sean, years ago, and I don't remember why or how, but a long time ago, I got an email from this guy, and eventually I saw a picture of him with spiked blonde hair, and he looked like a lunatic. Right? It was, he had a band, Wolf Rat, I think, and Wolfpack. Sorry, Wolf Rat is the ThunderCats character.
Although Wolf Rat would have been a great name for a band.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. So anyway, that was a very brief interaction. Briefish, and it was my first contact with anybody out of that fan group. So then years later, I get a call or email or whatever it is he's written a book, and would I answer some questions? So I answered some questions, and this is only what, 3 years ago, but
I think it was about maybe 3 or 4 or 5, like that, because you
we're
were
not
one of
many.
the first people I reached out to very early on.
So we began this whole dialogue and became friends. I mean, and that's how we.
So great.
Buddha's idea to do this podcast. So I owe him a huge debt because I had no idea that all this was going on. It was like, I had no idea.
I'll tell you the story in the drug rehab. It would get me every time. I would say, all right, let me try this. Did you ever hear of ThunderCats? And they would like, what? Yeah, I heard of ThunderCats. What about it? So, what's your favorite show? It was just, it was important. It's something that was important to people,
Yeah,
100%. And I know you said you guys you owe me, Peter. That's not true at all. I owe everyone involved. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do this. This is me being able to give back to everyone that was involved with it. And again, from, the writers, the people but behind the glass, everyone involved, because it was such a huge, well, I say huge, I know it was a small crew, but there were so many people involved within creating this show. And, being able to do this is one of the ways for me, just as kind of saying thank you to everyone and kind of spotlight and kind of tell everyone else's story that got to work on it. That's why it's been very important to me doing this for ThunderCats and for all of you. But
yeah, it's really, really, really nice. Really nice.
Okay.
But,
You're all putting a lot into it, Buddha, and I mean, we appreciate that. You really are. You put a lot of work into it.
Yeah, it's like I could see you being on the crew, like just spending this time with you. I could see you as sort of like, all right, what show are you working on? Let's go. Come on. Enough of this YouTube crap. Let's go. We have shows to get out.
Well, thank you. Again, being in music for so long, there's always the crew is always the most fun to hang out with. No offense to any of the performers I've known for all these years, everything like that. The crew is where it's at. That's where you've got the most fun. So I would hearing that, man, that means a lot to me, because I would have loved, again, and now to meeting everybody and studio people. Where I love the studio guys because there's a special, I don't know the right wording for the studio guys, but they all fit a certain motif or whatever it would be, or even mentality, and they're all great. So like, again, I would have loved to spend a day behind the glass with you guys, just to experience that back in the day. It had to be a hell of a time. But
it was. Yeah.
All right. Well, sorry, did I just cut you off, Larry? I didn't mean to there.
No. It was. I'm sure you're going to jar my. I'm sure the memories are going to start bubbling up. I'll probably have some ThunderCat dreams tonight or something. Oh my God.
Well, again, hopefully, when you some of those memories bubble up, write them down, because again, when we have you on again, we would love to hear what comes up and what you start thinking about. Look, and again,
I'm sure if we can put the reunion together, I'm sure that when we're all in the same where I'm sure it's going to spur a lot of
it'll be good. We'll do that.
And don't worry, we can edit stories out that can't go out public, at least. So just so you know on that.
I'm hoping that for this too. I don't know some of the things I said. I don't know.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, Larry, thank you. So this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for doing this.
Very welcome.
We're wrapping things up here. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that little notification bell so you'll be updated the next time the Beyond Thundera podcast puts anything up. You'll be the first to know. And, well, until next time, ThunderCats ho.
ThunderCats ho.
Oh.